Rouse's Markets is voted best grocery store in New Orleans, best grocery store in Baton Rouge, Mississippi, Gulf Coast, Thibodeau, Houma, Hammond, Lake Charles, Mobile, year after year. Thank you for choosing us best grocery store on the Gulf Coast. Number one. Thank you.
Thank you.
The number one grocery store
In Mississippi, Alabama,
Louisiana. 1 million customers a week can't be wrong. Welcome to Rouse's.
Hello and welcome back to this edition of Bayou Time. I'm your host, Keith Weissite, licensed clinical social worker with Terrebonne Home Care. Very glad you're joining us. However you may be joining us, we appreciate it. And you know, for some of us who have been watching the USS KIDD, this is one of these exciting times for it. We want to bring in the executive director of the USS KIDD Veterans Museum, Park Stevenson. Thanks for joining us today. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Keith, for having me on.
All right. And so as I was telling you, man, it's just really exciting for those of us that are down here in Houma who love the authenticity and just the revelry that the USS KIDD is, and being able to be down here in Houma, getting some work done to it is just so very exciting for us. But it's got to be really exciting for us to be able to take that next step with what's happening with her, right?
Yeah, Tennessee Marine Constructors was our number one choice for this work. They really demonstrated their passion for the ship that we share here at the museum. And I feel, very comfortable that the ship is in safe hands right now. Now, some of you may have noticed earlier when back in April when the ship was towed downriver from Baton Rouge and up the canal to Houma. Since that time, the shipyard's been doing work to prepare to go into dry dock where the serious work will commence. And in these pictures here, you see that moment just this last Tuesday where the ship actually left her pierside berth and was moved into the dry dock.
Yeah. And dry docking is where a boat is lifted. Of course, it's dry. It goes to the dock. It's a dry area where they can do so much more work on the hull and so much more work on the boat itself as it's dry docked. And Thomas, with the availability to be able to work on boats that size and to work on, ships that size is rather remarkable. And it's so very unique because since the storm, what you probably don't know, Parks, is that you could see the ship from 2 or 3 miles away. In fact, coming into town over the Prospect Street Bridge, it is one of the things that you can see coming into town, and that's about 3 miles away. And so it's been a wonderful representation of this 1962 500-foot Fletcher-class destroyer that is incredible that it can go 40 knots, right?
Well, I'm going to get a little bit there. The ship was built in 1903.
Oh, okay.
She was a destroyer. They're supposed to be fast and nimble. They have no armor on them, which is why they kind of got the nickname the Tin Cans.
Right.
And these were the workhorses of the fleet during World War II. And KIDD served primarily from 1943 to 1964 when she was deactivated for the last time. There was a brief period between World War II and Korea where she was out of service as well.
Right.
But 1952 was the last time that she saw an overhaul, and that was conducted by the Navy. And now, over 60 years later, she's getting another overhaul, another some work done on the hull and be refurbished a bit. Right. So long overdue,
right?
But she's been holding up well in the Mississippi River, and but she needs this work to last another 60 years.
Yeah, and again, such an iconic ship that has just been our battleship that's been so remarkable. It's synonymous with the state of Louisiana. People know the USS KIDD.
Yeah, it certainly has become so. Even though she had no ties to Louisiana during the war,
right.
She was brought to Baton Rouge in 1982 as a tribute to all Louisiana veterans. And Louisiana has taken her to heart. Not only do veterans come here to commemorate, but also her identity here in Louisiana has solidified, and now people will come to the state of Louisiana to see KIDD.
Yeah. And again, you can see just all of these tugs and all of the work that it takes just to help transition the ship from being in its slip to going on to dry dock. But a really important step. Let's talk a little bit about why it's so important with the museum and the staff being able to come down and actually see this, right?
Yes. I mean, actually putting the ship in the dry dock is a long, drawn-out process. It's not very dramatic to the casual observer. But to all of us on the staff who's, very passionate about the ship, this was something that everybody's been working for several years now. And to see it actually happen was a thrill for all of us.
Yeah, and so those things don't happen overnight, and we know that a state project being able to do this and really kind of represent the importance of honoring our veterans and honoring those people that were on that ship. And some of the restoration is going to be to make sure that it goes back to exactly the way it was and restore it back to when it was built, correct?
Yes, the primary purpose of putting her in a dry dock was get her repaired so she could continue to exist here on the Baton Rouge waterfront. But we also are having some modifications that will bring her more and more closer to 1945, her final configuration during the war. She's been restored to about 95% of that now. The remaining 5% does include some very impactful history. Like there is a space aboard that was segregated berthing for African Americans who served aboard the ship during the war. After the integration, those spaces were used for something else. And we're now having them restored back to that segregated berthing. And in conjunction with the local African American museum, we're going to tell that story, the only museum ship worldwide that will be able to do so in that manner.
Wow, really incredible story. We're excited to have her down here. We're going to take great care of her, I promise. And so, Parks, thank you for joining us today. Congratulations on all the work that's being done, the fact that it's dry dock now, and as we look forward to the current reconstruction of everything to get it back. We appreciate you joining us today.
Thank you. Home was our away from home for a while.
Yeah, we appreciate that. All right, guys, that'll do it for this particular segment, but don't go anywhere. A whole lot more local programming when we continue.
Today's social media segment is brought to you by Terrebonne General Health System. Your health is our legacy. Rouse's, you're either local or you're not. Buick, the craft of modern luxury. St. Martin and Bork, know your rights.